Welcome back to Queen's Mindset. If this is your first time joining us, welcome. We are super excited to have you here with us because tonight we have yet again another powerful story to share with you. I can't wait for you to hear her story. I mean, I am just at the edge of my seat waiting for her to share it with me. It's going to be phenomenal. But before we go any further, if you have not done this already, I want to go right ahead and just click that subscribe button just right down below. Just click on that subscribe button and make sure that you are subscribed to this channel so that you are kept abreast on all of our videos as soon as they come out. Okay, let's just head right into it. Akilah, welcome to Queen's Mindset. How are you doing?
I am good, and thank you for that warm welcome.
Yes, definitely. You are welcome. So, Akilah, tell us a little bit about yourself, who you are, and what you do.
Okay, so I am a teacher. I teach English at a private school here in Trinidad and Tobago. I am also an author, speaker, and social commentator. I am also, and this is the crux of my story, I'm a suicide survivor. I battled depression. That's pretty much who I am in a nutshell.
Well, but that's still quite a lot of stuff. How do you find the time to do it all?
I don't. Commissioner, remember I had messaged you at one point to let you know, it's so difficult even sometimes to follow certain shows and programs because I'm just so swamped with work. Like right now, we have exams with the kids and I'm still correcting assignments from throughout the term.
Yeah.
How do I find the time to do it? I lose sleep. I have to lose sleep to get it done.
Well, when you're chasing your dreams, that's a sacrifice that we all have to make. So at least that's yes. You're doing what you love. So that's phenomenal. So Akilah, you have a very powerful story. Like you said, you are a suicide survivor. Oh my God, congratulations. I am so proud of you. Can you tell us a little bit more about that, and how you were able to overcome that?
My battle with depression likely started when I was a child, somewhere in my preteens. I come from a broken home. My parents are divorced. I'm a daddy's girl. So when my dad walked out, I believe that is what would have triggered my depression. Nonetheless, I fell back on my mom's family for support. So I continued. My dad, I knew him. He was still in my life, but I didn't grow up in the house with him, and that affected me because it felt as if I was always vying for his attention. He had other children as a result of a couple of affairs, as a result of one affair. And I was never thrilled about that. I think my sister, it hurt her, but it hurt me more because of my closeness to my dad. But I still had my mom, my grandmother, my aunt, and my mother's other siblings to get me through and to get us through. So even though that family structure fell apart, I still had the extended family to rely on. Nonetheless, my mom was a bit tyrannical, always tried to dominate my personality. She felt I should be a particular way. So all of that I had to deal with. I don't want to say she was verbally abusive, but she was critical of me and she has said some horrible things to me. So I had to deal with the divorce and then that. And when I left at the age of 19, my late teens, to study in the United States, finally that family structure I had become accustomed to fell apart. My mom and my aunt, who was my mother's, I think she was just 1 year older than my mom. They were like ring and finger. They stopped talking. So that new family started to fall apart. And even though I had already given my life to God, I gave my life to God, I think a few months before I left for college. So even though I had that relationship with God, I did not draw close to him at that time. I had one foot in church and one foot out. So when all of that, everything started to go wrong with that new family structure, instead of holding on to God, I pulled away from him. And even though we give our lives to God, we're not always delivered. We still have issues, right? We still have issues that we're struggling with. And that is exactly what happened to me. And God used my Christian friends and even his prophets to talk to me and let me know what was going on. And let me know that, it's important to hold on to him. But I wasn't ready to settle down in God. I heard him say, Akilah, I want you to preach for me. I want you to be my prophetess or orator voice. But I fought him on it. At the time he said that to me, I was 19. And I could not wrap my mind around it. How do you want a 19-year-old to preach for you? I wasn't into parties a lot, but I wanted the option of going. I didn't dress in any ridiculous manner, but I didn't dress holy enough for the Lord. So all of these were issues I wrestled with
Yeah.
up until the point where I couldn't fight with him anymore, right? So when I was holding on to my family, that family fell apart. And I had no choice now. Because I was fighting with him, I had a nervous breakdown. That is when my depression was full blown and I had to hold on to God.
How old were you? How old were you when this happened?
You're gonna make me give away my age, Kamisha. I was 28 when I attempted suicide. When the family began to fall apart, I must have been about 23, 24.
So all of those years you were battling with, all these things and trying, pretty much you were suffering in silence. Because you didn't tell anyone, right?
Sorry?
You didn't tell anyone what was happening with you.
I sought counseling on campus. Okay. But it didn't really help me because when I went to the counseling office, I told them what was going on. And I remember asking them for antidepressants. I didn't want to talk about the issues. I just wanted them to go away. I remember just wanting the pain to go away. And I don't know if you've ever felt this way, and there's a video, I don't look at it anymore, but during my depression, there's a song, I don't remember the group, but it's called Runaway Tree. And it's about children who run away and go missing in the United States. And there was a video, it wasn't the official video, but the song was playing. And they had these videos of young people who had slit their wrist and they're like slammed up against a window, almost as if they're trying to escape, but they can't escape. And that is how I felt. Wow. I didn't know how to cope with the emotional pain. It really felt as if I was drowning. I thought it was that bad. I didn't know how to escape. I was really despairing. So when someone is suffering from depression, you may think, what are they making such a big deal over a situation for? What I always say, what is like water off a duck's back to you feels like a ton of bricks to another person. We are all built differently. So I was really suffering, but they didn't give me, so to go back to the original story, they didn't give me antidepressants. So I had to try to work it out. But what's funny about that whole situation is that I only slipped further into depression. So when I was talking to them, I would say I was probably mild to moderate. And then I slipped all the way in.
So what about your sister? Because of course you went through, well, you were both in the same home. So she had some of the same chat. She was not as close to your dad like you would have said. But were you able to talk to her to say,
No, my sister and I, it's a sad story. We don't really talk right now. The night I committed suicide, the night I attempted suicide, she didn't even bother to accompany me to the hospital. She was angry with me and she had a friend of hers over and she was embarrassed. And it took them a while to even acknowledge that it was happening. I think too, maybe because, the Black community generally does not like to discuss depression.
That's true.
So when I told my mom what was happening and she knew that I had to go to the hospital because of the attempt or whatever, she didn't acknowledge it. She insisted that I have problems and if I hadn't done this, it would have never happened. She didn't acknowledge it. Only recently she started acknowledging, okay, maybe my daughter had some issues. But they were very angry with me. They treated me like the black sheep. They're proud people, my parents. So I know they were embarrassed. They're glad, okay, so my daughter's gone to university. And now she's had a nervous breakdown. They were embarrassed by me. Yeah. So I found no support in my family, none whatsoever. My sole support was God. And from God came the friends in church and maybe one or two family members who assisted me. That any other human support would have come from people that God sent into my life. I could not rely on my own family.
So this is like, you said from the age of 23. So that's 5 years that you would have been off and on. But how many times did you attempt suicide? Was it just one time?
No, there was one time I remember I was either on my way to or from campus, and I made one step into the road. I was going to walk in front of a truck.
Wow.
Right. I didn't tell anyone about that. It was only when I was talking to a Christian friend of mine, another Christian friend of his who has the gift of prophecy, I guess the spirit of knowledge as well, confronted me and said, you attempted to walk into a truck one time, didn't you?
Mm.
You know? So I made attempts over the years. But I think something happened at work, and I had some experiences with racism. And I think all of that culminated into that one night where I decided, you know what, that's it. And then I overdosed on some Tylenol painkillers and some alcohol. And that was when I let go of God. I let go of his hand. I let go of him, but he didn't let go of me.
I was about to say.
That is what happened. I remember feeling his spirit, his presence so strong in the hospital, so strong. I thought it was the end. I meant for it to be the end, but he didn't. He didn't. And I'm really glad, sitting here and talking to you tonight, I'm really glad he didn't let go. And, I want to say that every day, it's a struggle to hold on. I am not as sick as I was back then.
Yeah.
But do the thoughts come back? Yes, they do, because the devil is persistent. He will always try to get back in. But I am not by nature an optimistic person. I am by nature a pessimistic person. So every day I have to fight to keep my thoughts on the right track. I have to remember the word of God.
So do you now have a support team then?
I do.
Okay,
I do. I have my church. I have Christian friends. They may not necessarily be in the church I attend, but I have Christian friends. There was one lady I remember meeting in the United States, and God reunited us. I just happened to be working in the church that she attends, and now she's like a mom to me. She's a mentor to me. My family, God is knitting us back together. So I now have their support.
Yeah.
We still have some issues to iron out, but he's working on it, and God's been talking to me about, don't give up on your family. You pray for them and, forgive them, because in the end, I would have used them to get you to a certain point. So things are better now.
Good. That's very good. I'm very glad to hear that. So tell us, what would you say are some of the signs of depression, or some of the signs that you can see, okay, if we don't deal with this right now, it can lead to suicide. So for those persons who are watching, who might not be fully aware, and it just takes one moment and they may be thinking, nothing is wrong with me, just dealing with some issues without recognizing, hey, this is something that can become bigger than you and you need to get help. What would you say those signs are?
Lack of interest in things that you would normally be interested in. When I got sick, I was working as a lecturer at Brooklyn College. I was teaching political science. I was excited. I was lecturing before most people do, because I didn't have my PhD yet. I had just got my master's. I love shopping. I love buying nice things. I love buying clothing more than I do shoes. And all of that I lost interest in. After a while, the clothing and the shoes and the trips into Manhattan, it just did not cut it. I had no interest in life whatsoever. So when you find that you've lost interest in certain things, and you see, no matter how many times people talk to you, I had pastors counsel me, I had friends, Christian friends, talk to me, and nothing was working. I just couldn't find a way out. So I just a lack of interest, and sometimes no matter how many times someone talks to you, you're just not listening. All of those are signs, symptoms. Eventually you will let go. Eventually, if that continues, you're going to let go.
So how long did it take you then I know you said that there's sometimes the enemy will still try, but when your final suicide attempt, how long did it take you then to go through that rehab stage so that you can now, recover from where you would have been? How long did that take?
5, how old am I now? Let's say about 5 to 7 years. Yeah, about. It took a while. It took a while, because what essentially happened when I fell ill, that was God's way of throwing me down. Because I was stubborn, I wasn't listening, I wouldn't draw closer. So the only way that was going to happen is if he broke me. So he had to break me. So he had to rebuild me. Now I had to rebuild my relationship with God. And yes, there was zigzags as I did that, right? So yes, I would do the wrong things, go back out there and come back in. So it took a while before I could set, like, I did a lot of dancing around with the Lord before I could start walking in lockstep with him. So it took a number of years. It took me a number of years to get a grip. It really did.
So do you currently like mentor women or men who may be going through depression right now? Is that something you think that if you don't do it already, do you see yourself doing?
I do it sporadically. Like if someone would call me up and say, Akilah, can you talk to someone about this for me? But it's not something I do consistently. It's something I probably should do consistently, yeah, but it kind of took me a while to accept that part of my call, dare I say. But I've done it sporadically.
And how long did it take you to talk about it? Because I can only imagine having, like you said, with your family being, ashamed of the fact that because they're prideful and they don't want to be seen, like, my daughter did something like this. How long did it take you to then say openly and not just in a private discussion, hey, I struggled with this? How long did that?
I think I've always been open about it. There are times I would shut in and not talk about it, but sometimes I think I've been a little too vocal about it, because when I raised the issue, I remember starting to work in Trinidad and Tobago maybe a year, the same year or the following year, once I got back from New York.
Yeah.
And that was used against me. Sometimes I think I've been a bit too vocal about it in small groups. So as a result, I don't talk about it much, unless like in a forum like this one, if I have to talk to somebody about it.
And I think first when you started talking about it, how did your parents feel? Did it even, after everything, after realize, okay, this is actually serious. This is something more than she's just going through a situation. Like this is, to the stage of an illness. So how did they treat you when you started to talk about it?
They wish that I would be quiet. I remember my aunt calling me up and saying, Akilah, this is Trinidad and Tobago. You cannot talk about these things. People will penalize you for it. They were never pleased with it. As a matter of fact, even when I was commentating on other issues, they would prefer I not say anything. I can understand my mom and my aunt where certain issues are concerned in terms of, Akilah, I don't want you to get killed. Please don't say anything about the government, blah, blah, blah. But yeah, they were never thrilled about it.
How did that make you feel?
It's annoying. I find it annoying. And even now, I think if I'm to speak of, like I'm talking to you right funny you ask, I'm talking to you right now, I'm thinking, oh Lord, I don't want to say anything to upset them. I wonder if they're going to see this. I say, no more, just talk about it. Just go ahead. So it goes through my head sometimes, yeah.
You see, what I have also learned too is that, because I was similar to you, that's what you said was where I was too as well, where I would never want to talk about certain things in my family, because I came from a dysfunctional family. That's not something I would want anyone to know, because it's the experiences and stuff that you had, until when God said you need to tell your truth, because your truth is what sets like the darkness, and it no longer lingers, it delivers, and then you find that when you step up and you tell your truth, now you find that there's so many other persons out there who are just waiting for you, because then they actually reach out to you and they're like, oh my God, thank you so much for sharing that. It helps me with this. And it's like you start unlocking and breaking down some barriers, and you don't even know how much power that lies within your truth. So that's why I really want to congratulate you for being so brave to share your truth, because I'm definitely sure that someone is watching us right now and they're thinking, oh my God, this is me. Thank you, Akilah, for being so honest, because this is me. So I know now this is something serious, something that I need to watch, something that I need to reach out and get counseling and get help, so that I don't get to a stage or point of no return. So I really do want to thank you for, for sharing. That's definitely major. But one other thing I would like to ask is, I know you said the relationship with your father, because you guys were so close, and then when him and your mother had parted, did he ever come back and, forget, said he was sorry, or try to, try to restore your relationship? Did he ever come back?
He has never said he's sorry. He has always been in our lives, just not in the house. Uh, Sometimes my mom did have to yell at him to get financial support. But we've had. I remember when I got back to Trinidad and Tobago, we had a really big fight. I can't remember exactly what triggered it, but for 7 years, my dad and I didn't talk. For 7 years, and it's so funny, God, because seven is God's number of completion. I think it's in the seventh year or after the seventh year, I get a call from him. His voice wasn't too familiar. I'm like, hi, who is this? Dad? He said, yeah. He could write. He called to see if I was okay. Funny, because even whether we're believers or not, God is able to send each of us strings like he did with Nebuchadnezzar. He can reach us. My dad said, I dreamed you. I dreamed that you were on a truck, and the truck like it was carrying you away, and you were screaming, Daddy, help, help, Daddy, help. It's so funny because at that time I was going through the divorce with my ex-husband. That's another story. He was a mess. So that's why my dad called me. And we have been working on our relationship ever since. I am putting more effort into working on the relationship, but gradually he's coming around, and I go and I spend time with him now, which is something I didn't do a lot. So it's he's never openly said, I'm sorry, but I'm seeing, and the Lord is showing me in little things that he's doing. He said, Akilah, your dad has a conscience now. It's bothering him how he's treated you, but he's proud, and it's taking a while to break down, but he's coming around. So I'm glad that things are starting to work out with Dad and I.
Yeah, so how long did it take you then to forgive him? Because I'm sure you must have been really hurt, but
Yes.
for decisions that he would have taken.
I guess the 7 years plus, I would say 7+ years, because I was angry at him for a while. I could never really shut my dad out completely.
Yeah.
But I always resented him for what he did.
Right.
I always did. Yeah. Now I've forgiven him. I think I can safely say now that I have forgiven him.
Yeah.
And I am glad that he is in my life. I am learning a lot of things about myself and my interaction with my dad. I'm realizing why I'm a certain way.
Yeah.
Now that I'm spending time with him, we are making memories. My dad can cook really well, and he's teaching me how to cook. So I'm glad for this opportunity, because that is something that was denied me when I was younger.
Yeah. No matter how old you get, you always need your parents.
Yes, Kanisha. Yeah.
Yeah. You always need your parents. Yeah. So I know you mentioned just a bit earlier. You said your ex-husband. Were you married at the time when you would have attempted suicide?
No, I wasn't. I got married 2014. So I got married 4 years after I got back to Trinidad. So that would have been about 4 to 5 years after the attempt.
Okay.
So I had recovered. So I had made a significant recovery. Yeah. Let me just put it this way. I had recovered some by the time I got married.
And did he know about your past before you guys had gotten married? Did you talk to him about it?
He did. He did know about it, but by the grace of God, it really didn't flare up. I don't think it didn't flare up much. It really didn't flare up too much. But even though he was a Christian, he was abusive. Wow. Mostly physically, sometimes emotionally, but the physical would be every few weeks or every few months. And I am partly to blame because I had some dreams about him. I didn't even seek God's voice carefully in that. But I do remember the Lord saying to me, I wouldn't necessarily get married to him. I think that's what I heard because, he seems to be anxious to get married. And then he came back to me and he said the same thing I heard the Lord say. He said, the Lord said to him not to use me to end his loneliness, but if he's going to marry me, to be sure I know what I'm doing, which is, it echoed what I heard the Holy Spirit say. So I think it was God's permissible. So we got married and things were going fine, but he knew about my depression. But what happened? Because he refused to grow spiritually, he refused to step up. I continued to grow. I continued to build my relationship with God because it was necessary for my total deliverance.
Yeah.
He didn't. He became stagnant after a while, and he began to use my depression against me.
Wow.
So his rationale to protect him, to make himself look good. He didn't tell people that he used to hit me, but he would tell people that I was depressed and I had daddy issues. So he
Wow.
used it against me.
Wow. How did that make you feel, having to deal with that, every other day, like you said? Oh,
Yeah, every few weeks, every month. It was annoying. It was infuriating. It was infuriating, Kamisha. It really was. I was angry and I said some very horrible things to him, very horrible things. He would tell people about the horrible things I said to him, but he wouldn't tell them the trigger.
right.
Right? He wouldn't tell them when I hit her or I said this to her. But I wanted to kill him at one point. I really wanted to kill him. I thought to myself, Akilah wouldn't last a minute in jail. So I didn't do it, but I got very, very
Yeah.
angry. It was hurtful as well, embarrassing, to think I found myself in that situation. And that's something I wrestled with for a while. I would say to God, how is it? God, I have my degrees. I've written articles to women telling them how to not need a man and all. This is embarrassing for me because I was a journalist at the time all of this was happening.
Wow.
And sometimes we would have arguments in public. I think I said to him at one point, we really shouldn't do this, given that I'm in the public eye, but it was a mess, Kamisha. It was a mess.
And did your family know that he was abusive towards you?
After a while, I kept it from them because I know how critical my mom has been of me, so I kept it from her. But eventually I had to tell her because I needed their support. And once she realized my life was in danger, she became quite supportive, and they helped me to find a new place. And she let me know, look, if you need me to help send cash for an attorney, I will do so, So.
How long did it take you to, before you say, that's enough? I'm out of this marriage. Like, it's just my life. It's just not worth it.
I was in church one Sunday morning. I was praising God. And during worship, I got the feeling like this cannot continue. This really cannot continue. But what's interesting, before I could even make a move, he made a move. And I figured it was God's way of protecting me.
Yeah.
We had a blowout one day. We had started counseling. And the person who was counseling us was a Christian therapist and a friend of ours. So my ex-husband insisted, I am depressed. I have daddy issues. So we went into counseling. And while actually, let me backtrack a bit. We were in a marriage group in church, and it was I think it was a group of couples married 15 years and under. And it was led by a couple of deacons in the church who were married. So it was several couples were in the group. Yeah. So I did express to them what was going on. And they figured, and he insisted, no, it's just because Akilah is this when Akilah is happy. And one night during counseling with them, you see how God is such a good God, he will expose you, huh? God exposes you. During that counseling session, he got up as if to attack me, and they panicked. Of course, they would have gotten between us.
Yeah.
And the wife said to me, she said, try not to irritate him, but he needs anger management. This is not a marital issue. This is an anger management issue, right? So I think that's when we started talking to the therapist in church. And during that session, he got angry and he threw some candy wrappers he had in his hand at me. That wasn't the first time he threw anything at me. I remember one time in the privacy of our apartment, he threw something to hit me in my face. It didn't hit me. I think the blow, looking back now, the blow was kind of softened by the Holy Ghost, to be honest with you, looking back. But he threw the wrappers at me. And the therapist panicked and he said to me, get a divorce. He said, get a divorce. He said, what if that was something else he had in his hand? Right? So his anger came out on more than one occasion. Now, even then, we're still trying to work things out. So I messaged the therapist and said, you know what, I think I'm going to do an email to him documenting how we got to this point, because I got the feeling, and that's probably the Holy Spirit, I got the feeling that he was not telling the therapist everything. Okay. So I wrote the email and I documented every instance of abuse, his porn addiction, because I found pornography in his laptop at one point. Everything that he did wrong, I documented. I said, I told the therapist, is it okay if I send it to him and CC you on it? He said, no problem. He said, that should be fine. So I didn't do it. And I wrote the email, but I didn't do it at that moment. He wanted to go get some doubles out the road, so I left him to go get the doubles. And then I got ready very quickly. I got in the shower, changed, went to the gym, right? So I waited until he left the house to send the email to him because I was concerned that if he saw the email at that point in time, he would get angry and attack me.
Yeah.
So I waited till he left. I said, you know what, let him leave. You go to the gym, let him cool down. When he come back, he will see the email. You will be out the house. You'll give him some time to cool down.
Yeah.
When he got that email, he decided he didn't want to be around anymore. Because when I got back, I was sitting in the bedroom and he came to me, he said, here. He said, I'm going, I'll leave and I'm going. It didn't click what he was saying until I saw his father in the apartment. His father came over and they began to move everything out of the apartment. Furniture, wares, everything we got as gifts for the wedding. He took everything.
Wow.
Down to the did he take the trash can? I think he took the trash can to everything. He took silverware, everything, Kamisha, everything. I'm not exaggerating. He took everything from the house. It just so happened that my aunt was in the country at the time because it happened around Carnival time. My aunt was in the country for Carnival. So I was able to call her up and she gave me some money to get a few things. Right? And he left not long after we had a discussion. I said to him, I think I want to do God's will full time. I think I might leave my job. I think God is leading me to. And he said, okay, he left me month end when the rent was due. We had a rent of $3,200.
Wow.
And I had resigned from my position at Newsday.
Wow.
So he left because of that email. That is how we ended up separating.
Wow.
I haven't heard from him since.
Wow.
Well, no, that's a lie. I didn't hear from him for maybe 2 or 3 years. I just got the divorce papers. I never went to the hearing, so I let them know, okay, yes, that was my way of letting them know, yes, please go through with the divorce. I did message him sometime in 2019, 2020, to find out, what I can't remember. What did I say to him? Oh, so you're not even going to say I'm sorry? You've been so disrespectful. You're not even going to acknowledge what he did. And then he sent an email apologizing, but the apology was a kind of backhand apology because he still insisted that I was the problem. So he had yet to acknowledge where he went wrong.
Yeah.
And we haven't been in contact since.
Wow. That's a lot. That's a lot. Wow. Yeah. Wow. So, wow, look at God, what God would do. I am glad to hear. So this has been how many years now that you guys have been divorced?
We got divorced in 2017 to 18, 19. I think about 4 years going on 5
years. Okay.
Yeah.
And did you also have to go through counseling just to deal with your feelings? Because I'm sure that even though yes, he was so abusive and so on, you still had some form of love for him that you have to go through, to just deal with that and sort that out.
Kamisha, do you know that I probably shed half a tear over that relationship.
Wow.
And I'll tell you why. I think the biggest issue, I was turned off. I was really turned off. And when I married him, I don't think I completely loved him. I believe I heard the Lord say marry him after a certain point. And that is why I went ahead and I married him, because I realized he was Christian. I realized he was working through his issues. Things became problematic when he moved in with his family. Even though the Holy Spirit had advised me not to, and I spoke to him about that, he didn't listen. When we moved in with his family, that's when things became problematic. But he was always trying to be a better person.
Right.
But because of his behavior, because of things he would have said, and because I know he would have probably had conversations with his family about me, and he would have said horrible things about me, Kamisha, I'm turned off. I don't want to go back into that kind of environment. So there wasn't, yes, I was embarrassed. I felt a lot of shame. I felt foolish, and I still wrestle with those feelings from time to time. Hurt. Yes, I did feel hurt.
Yeah.
But I wasn't like, oh gosh, my husband come up. I didn't go through that, by the grace of God. He really turned me off.
Yeah. I think at that point you just had enough. You were just like, okay.
That is correct. I think that's what happened.
Just had enough. Wow. Oh wow, what a powerful story. See, guys, I told you she had a powerful story. I hope that you guys are being blessed by this. Akilah, before we go, I know we're running out of time, but can you give advice to someone who may be going through a similar situation, whether they're dealing with an abusive husband or they're dealing with depression that has led them to attempt suicide? What would be your advice to someone who is going through that right now?
Trust in God. And you see, where committing suicide is concerned, we don't realize how valuable we are. There's a Bible verse that tells us God left the 99 to go look for the one. I never considered myself of any big value to God, of any worth. To think that God would leave his 99 sheep to go look for you, it tells you how special you are. And your life has value. For years, I guess I didn't think my life had any value. I treated myself like I had no value. It has value, at least to God. You may not be valuable to others, but trust me, you are valuable to God. And life is good. Life is always a problem for me. I think I told my dad at one point, I feel like I'm just existing. For a while, I was just living just because I had to, just because I was here, not because I wanted to. But life is worth living and it can be enjoyed.
Yeah.
And know your worth. Don't stay with anybody who doesn't know your worth. Right? But the primary message here is believe, hold on to God. Seek his face, draw close to him. He will give you a reason. Once God becomes your reason for living, life is going to be much better. He will get you through whatever you're going through.
Yeah, definitely. Wow.
That's my advice. Just hold steadfast to God.
Yeah. Well said, Akilah. Well said. So you guys have heard it from Akilah. She just shared her powerful story with us. I hope you guys feel empowered, you feel encouraged, and you feel lifted because she has been honest with you. She's been transparent, and she's really shared it with you from the heart, so that you can grow, so that you can move past this if you are in this space right now. Or maybe it might not be you. It might be someone someone very close to you that you may be able to share this link with them and say, have a watch, have a listen, so that they can hear for themselves and they too can feel encouraged. I know that they don't have to stay in that place that they are right now.
Exactly.
Yeah. So Akilah, I just really want to thank you for sharing with us tonight. We definitely enjoyed your story. Such a phenomenal story, so impactful. So thank you so much for sharing with us tonight.
And thank you for having me.
Yes,
it's been a pleasure.
You're most welcome. So to our viewers, once again, don't forget, if you have not done this before, just hit that subscribe button just below this video and make sure that you have subscribed, like this channel, and share it with a friend, and be sure to comment so that we can see what you are thinking, so that we can engage with you as well. But thank you so much for joining us today. Have a great one. Bye.
Bye.
What I find disturbing in our community, the African American community, is that we can talk about a thyroid, we can talk about cancer, breast cancer, AIDS even, but we won't deal with the mental. And that's an issue.
Sometimes you got to go back to the beginning.
From Barbados, Pastor Crystal Grant.
Wow.
I began now to beat me.
For what?
Join us for our next episode.